All right, guys. So I'm starting this thing where I'm going to be recording podcasts, YouTube, when I travel around for my bodybuilding journey. So our journey starts today. Show day number one. Actually started very seriously 10 weeks ago when I unfortunately miscalculated the dates of my show. Thought I was 14 weeks out. Turns out I was 10. So I had to really ramp up, and this actually had a very positive turnout in the process because I had such a fire under my ass that I just doubled down on everything and I went about my journey a little bit less intuitively than I would. I'm a bit of a conservative coach. I like to have a lot of time ahead of me. I like to not lose weight too drastically, but I was facing a situation where it was kind of do or die, and the turned out was pretty great. I don't find like my condition is where I want it to be yet, but it was as expected. If I want to be peaking with my top physique or my best look by July August, it would be a little realistic for me to achieve that right now and try to sustain it. So I'm trying to make the prep as realistic as possible, especially for someone who hasn't competed in like 5 years. So I'm bringing a nice package today. I don't think it's my best package, very honestly, but I'm very excited. I'm proud. I mean, it was such a hard 10 weeks, and most of people who know me know that I'm also a workaholic. I run a business. We have our own private facility, so it was just like trying to keep up with the hours while also being on prep and depleted and limited in time, because one of the other thing that prep does to you is that it just takes away a lot of the hours you have in a day because your workout gets longer, your cardio takes forever, and then you have posing, and then you have errands, and there's just so many things to do. But I love it. I love every part of it. And I figured in this episode I would break it down in two, try to keep it short, under 20 minutes, but maybe under 30. I always end up going on tangents, but regardless, you guys can just clock out whenever you're tired. But those who wants to listen, I'm going to break it down into two part. I'm going to talk about like four things that I journal every day, and one of my last journal I wrote about four things that I learned about this prep. And after that, I think I'll discuss a little bit about my peak week, because peak weeks are going to be something I'm really going to experiment with in this journey. Like, since I'm doing 3 or maybe 4 shows, I'm going to try different peaks. Like for this first show, I obviously went with a very conservative peaking process, a more of a physique management approach where there's no backloading. I'm not carbing up aggressively close to the show. I did that last weekend, so now it's been a week. I tapered down during the week, and now I'm filling up the little details. I'm not worried I'm gonna spill. I mean, I am worried because as a bodybuilder, the closer you get to the show, you feel like you start overthinking everything. But on paper, technically, it's not likely for me to spill. I'm just gonna keep looking tight, and then as I pump up and add a bit of sodium and get the last bits of carbs in with some hydration, I should look pretty solid. That's the goal. So I'll be talking about different peaks I'm going to be attempting as I get leaner, as I get more shredded, and as I get like more error marge room for me to like do more aggressive peaks. I'll talk about that a little bit. But first of all, one thing I realized about this prep is that you really control your happiness. And those who know me very well, and I don't mind being transparent on social media, have a bit of anxiety, depressive habits. Um, I tend to I tend to be very negative, and the pandemic has made that come out of me a lot more. And I think I used to be someone who was more optimistic, a little more ambitious prior to COVID, and then the past 2 years, it's like I've been in this whirlwind where it didn't take much for me to resort to darkness, and it was a bit disconcerting because I lost myself not for a couple of weeks, but for years, and it was odd. Recently, I've been kind of finding myself, and it's so funny to think that it's on prep that I actually rediscover my happiness, because prep takes all the good things out of life, right? It takes the food, takes the energy, it takes hormones, You know, like I did a blood test recently and my testosterone level is very low, and I'm a fully natural athlete. I don't take anything like, and my test is still down to the ground because of my body fat that's so low, and my energy intake that's so low as well. So I mean, I discovered happiness, I discovered peace, journaling, reading, educating myself, personal development. Like I used to do that a lot. I stopped. And it's just like training, man. It's something you have to keep up with like daily. I even started meditation. I must have started meditation like at least 5 times in my life. I always quit. It's so hard. Like I think the muscle that is the hardest to train in your body is the brain. And trying to get a grip on your brain. Like the breathing part, whatever. But me, it's the emptiness of the mind, you know, or the mindfulness, or just trying to like erase all thoughts and achieve such mastery of your mind that you dictate where it goes or how it acts. I think this can be very helpful in my everyday life. And even though I feel like when I'm meditating, like I'm going nowhere, it's throughout the day that I get a better control over my thoughts. And I'm like, oh, maybe I am doing something. It's like training, you know. You don't leave the gym after your first day with a six pack, but it's after consistent effort and recurrent effort that you get a six pack. So yeah, you control your happiness at the end of the day. No one else. And you control whether you're happy or not, even when you're on prep. So that I realized it, and it's not easy. Ask Hillia. She's still dealing with my annoying ass half the time. But I always told myself getting into this, she doesn't deserve to live with an asshole because I chose to be on prep. So I really do my best to try to like not let the simple thing drive me nuts just because I am hangry. And then the big things, those are the ones that I really try to achieve self mastery and get a grip on it. So that's number one. That was a bit more of a psychological or spiritual even discovery, but I also discovered some physiological facts that were pretty awesome. First of all, losing muscle isn't that fucking easy. Like, it's not because you're in aggressive caloric deficit and you're dropping weight that and that you're natural that all the hard work you've put in the off season is gonna go away. Like, but there's one caveat to that. You gotta train fucking hard. You gotta eat smart, and you got to lose weight at a reasonable rate. Like when I say I was aggressive, I was losing 2 pounds a week, but that was still 1% of my body weight. So that's still reasonable. It's just that it demands a lot of discipline to lose 2 pounds a week consistently. So that's why it was aggressive, because it's hard, but it's not harmful to muscle retention. That's the cool thing. Second thing, I switched my training because of the curfew during lockdowns from training at 8 p.m. to training at 1 p.m. This has completely transformed my life. I moved clients later in the day, and I made a gap in the middle of the day for me to get my workouts. This has been the single most biggest game changer in the success that I've had at retaining muscle. I did a prep right before one of the lockdowns back in 2020, and I got to the same body weight that I was 5 weeks ago. So I'm 5 pounds lighter and than I was at the time, and I look bigger. And it's insane how much more muscle I've retained. I also gained some during the off season, granted, but it's insane how much more muscle I've retained because my training quality is just so much better when it's earlier in the day. So I think for a bodybuilder on prep, train early. That's your best bet. And also eat smart. I mean, obviously, my continued education regarding nutrition never ends. I'm constantly trying to learn new things, but also explore new venues, right? I keep an open mind as a coach and also as a scientist. Like when it comes to my approach to my profession, like I really have a background in biochemistry, so I always use scientific thinking, and then I explore, I make hypotheses, I observe data, analyze, and then that gives me more information. And This is how I've improved my skill as a coach. And there's a lot that I've learned when it comes to nutrition, and it's been really helping. It's been paying off, obviously, as much as with me as with my athletes. Chloe has been killing her conditioning. It's like everywhere we want to take her body, it goes, and it's very fun to see all the reward from all the effort that we put intellectually, just translating it into our physiques. So that has been awesome. Third point, cardio is not evil. Yeah. For the longest time, I think in the bodybuilding niche, we've always approached cardio with like that necessary evil on prep, but that thing that is like very dangerous if you overdo it, or that should not happen whatsoever during the off season. Like, don't do cardio, blah, blah, blah. Concurrent training is not good. It will inhibit you to build muscle. Honestly, crap. Most of it is crap. Like, I've seen it too many times. There is so much benefit, and it's more subtle, but like there's so much benefit from doing cardio even on your off season. Your stamina is better, your energy is better, and then these things will also lead to like better recovery, and then better sleep and lower heart rate. All these things are awesome for a bodybuilder. They're awesome for building muscle. Like, the obvious thing you need to avoid is like doing a lot of cardio before training, or doing any cardio that causes a lot of systemic fatigue, or a lot of like pain on the body, or affecting your performance into your following workouts. Like, you just don't want to do anything that will obviously interfere with you killing your workouts. But as far as that goes, that's the end of all. Like, the rest, it's mostly benefits. And I've also realized that you can get away with very simple cardio options like walking. At this point of the prep, when I started prep, I used to do boxing, and that went out the window real quick. I love you, Sam, but he's the best boxing coach in the world. But I just couldn't keep up, I would right away deplete my glycogen within 5 minutes, and then it would suck because I need that for my training. So, and then I wouldn't enjoy myself during the boxing either. So like that went out the window. But in the off season, it's a great. When you have a lot of energy, it's a great source of cardio. And then I did some running. I did some incline walking. I did some cycling, but like going intense. And eventually I just resorted to walking because I just didn't have the bandwidth anymore to like push through. And now I'm walking like more than 10K a day. And I've been melting. Like, it really, as long as I keep my caloric intake steady in a deficit, like the increased walking, like there's almost a direct correlation between the rate of weight loss and the amount of walking I do. Like, I slow down the walking, the weight loss slows down. I crank up the walking, the rate loss cranks up too. So far it's all observational data, and it's anecdotal because it's me personally, but I've heard a lot of case studies about that, and I believe that there is a positive impact to that. Okay, so it doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to have your heart rate in a specific window. Just get it done, and keep all other variables steady, and then observe what happens. Keep track. And the last one is, my body and my mind are more resilient than I thought. Like, if at the beginning of prep, even 10 weeks ago, somebody would have told me you're going to be doing 10K of walking a day plus. So that gets to like 1,000 calories of cardio a day. The week before peak week, I was doing 1,000 calories of cardio a day, eating like around 2,000 calories, maybe 2,200. And somebody would have told me like they're going to be doing this like a week out from the show, and I've been like, you're fucking crazy. Like, there's no way I can do all this. Like, I won't need to do this, and if I do, I'll quit because it's too hard, But then every time I would increase something, because this is the hardest challenge when you're self-coached, is that you never know if you want a refeed or you deserve a refeed, because there's this part of your brain that's like, I'm fucking hungry, and there's this other part that like, you may look flat, but you may not. And I ended up not giving myself a refeed for pretty much all prep. Not because refeeds are bad. Personally, I think there's a cost to them. Obviously, if you have a refeed, that means your other days are going to have to be low in calories if you want to achieve the same rate of weight loss. And also there's a cost of like distraction, because it takes you away from the normal momentum that your wheels are getting, and then boom, you put the brakes on, get a refeed, gotta start the engine back. I think weekly refeed are a little bit hardcore, and maybe they're good for people that have a lot of self-control over like their relationship with food. I don't, especially not on prep. Like, it's very hard for me to close the gates. Once I open them, I want to keep eating. So I just didn't have any. And that too, you would have told me like, you're resilient, you will push through, you will be fine. I would have said, there's no way I can do all this. And I did it. And it's just always crazy when you look back and you look at the past 2-3 months and you're like, fuck, I did all this, I didn't get a refeed. I ate the same damn foods, not that eating the same damn foods is good, but for me that works. I eat the same damn foods like a robot, and I killed my workouts, and I did my cardio, and I pulled my hours at work, and I managed to still keep my business thriving and my trainers happy, I think, and be able to continue to make progress professionally, even though it's not as exponential as it once was, because obviously I have to focus on myself right now. But I'm very proud that I managed to like get it done. And yeah, I realized like I got more work to do for the next few shows, and more I believe that I am resilient enough that I will push through. Part of it because I want this really badly. Like, I love the sport, and anybody who's a bodybuilder, especially at my level, which is amateur level, knows that you don't do this for the praise, the money, or the rewards, because there isn't much in that sport. It's a small sport, small niche, and it's not the Olympics here, but the glory comes from within. And my true love is the sport, is the performance, is the posing, is the art that comes behind it, and the training. I love training. I love food. I love manipulating macros. So the sport really connects with me, and I enjoy it. Like, I deeply enjoy it. It's the reason why I do it. Is my moment. It's for me, and the rest is just gravy on top. So I think when you're really passionate, you really like something, it's also easier to like push through. Okay, wrapping up on this show. These were my points of the things that I realized in my prep. Maybe not what you would have thought, but these are the 4 things that came to mind first. Last thing I'll talk about is like just quick breakdown, because this is pretty exciting. Like I said, I did more of a front load approach on this peak week. So for those who don't know much about peak week, it's the week before the show. You're going to be manipulating certain stuff. Like, you're going to remove certain foods. Like, I remove fiber closer to the show. That's just to avoid having too much water in your gut, too much gut volume. And then I will, like, for example, manipulate carbohydrate. I don't play with water so much, but I do try to keep water steady. So I track it, but don't manipulate it. Sodium, I will manipulate. Usually sodium will evolve as your carb intake evolves. So most of the time, if I go high carb day, I'm going to go high sodium day, and then vice versa. And then obviously your fats and proteins, well, they're going to have to be manipulated as well because of your total caloric intake. So if you go from 200 grams of carb to 600, which I did last week, well, you're going to want to bring fats and protein downs, because you also don't want to go from eating 2,000 to 5,000. But by increasing your carbohydrate to 600, that's like 2K calories plus just from carbs. So you gotta bring other macros down so that your caloric intake is obviously going to be in a surplus or at maintenance if your maintenance is still very high, but it's fine for a couple of days. You're filling up. So what I did is I filled up early into the week to a point where I believe I looked spilled, but not so spilled. I think I could have filled up more, but you never know for sure until you try it. So I think I was still tight. I could have filled up more. I did one day at like maybe 800 grams of carbs, maybe 7, and then one day at 600, and then I went 5, 4, 3, 2, 2 days out of the show, I was eating very little carbs. And then yesterday I filled up. Today I'm filling up a little more, but like now I'm filling up by the way I look. And then sodium is ramped up. Sodium was like moderate yesterday. Today I'm ramping up a lot. Try to get some vascularity. I'm hydrating still, drinking water. I don't do diuretics. I don't do like flushing out the water, like loading up and then cutting it dry. I don't do any of this, especially because I believe you want to get a nice pump. You need hydration, right? Blood flow. There's water in it. So if you want everything to circulate and glycogen to actually get through the blood barrier, you gotta have to do something. You're gonna have to consume some water. So I consume water, no problem. And I just cut it closer to the show because I don't want to have to go to pee right before going on stage, obviously. Oh, we got a nice sun here. We're in London, Ontario, by the way. It's like really nice. I love this little town. I call it little town. It's a city. It's just a little more flat. It's like there's not big towers, but it's super cool. People are awesome, and the hotel room is badass. Like we have a nice living room here, full equipped kitchen. I brought all my chicken and my rice and everything. Turns out the room had a kitchen. He didn't tell me, so I could have just like go shopping, but whatever. I saved some energy for that, and that's it for peak week. I think in my future episode I'll be breaking down the different approach that I'll be doing, especially because everything is up for changing in the future depending the outcomes of the next few weeks. But this time was a front loading approach. And I would be very excited if I get the opportunity to try a backloading, especially in the next coming shows, because this is the kind of go big or go home approach. And I want to be that kind of guy. I want to know my body to a point where I can do something that might have harmful repercussion, but pull it off. Now I'm playing it safe. It's the first show. Gotta get my toes wet. So excited to step on stage. That's like in 2 hours and a half, ETA. And hope you enjoyed this episode. Very different, but I think there's some good information for anyone out there. Peace.